All right. So I'm back with your weekly roundup. Now, this is basically going to be me mostly summarizing stories that I already talked about earlier in the week. There's very little new things in here that I hadn't covered in previous videos, but first off, around 6:30 Central Time last night, the body cam footage for Tyre Nichols' beating was released, and as I promised, I did not watch it. Um, the news I was watching didn't show it came out too late, so I don't know if they were even going to show the whole thing. I know that with the Paul Pelosi beating, they didn't show anything. So, because, I'm sure this was out of respect to Nancy, that she had no interest in hearing the 911 call, in watching the video, his hearing DePape's confession. So they didn't show anything graphic on that either. So I don't know if they actually showed the whole body cam footage. Of course, protests erupted. Hopefully, they stay peaceful as the family requested. So yeah, yesterday two body cam footages two video footages were released. One for Tyre Nichols and one for Paul Pelosi. So, let's see. It did mention that he called for his mom. Tyre Nichols' mom did not watch the video. Can't say I blame her, just like I can't blame Nancy for not wanting to watch her husband getting beaten. And it was just so heartbreaking to hear her mention that he was calling for her. And there's a transcript saying that he cried, "Mom, Mom," as he was being beaten. And, yeah, I just can't imagine what she was going through. I mean, she felt horrible that he was crying out for her, but she couldn't hear him. I mean, that is just heart-wrenching. And the police chief, to add in to make it even worse, at least sometimes you can at least stretch it. The bigots can at least stretch it to say, oh, well, he had it coming because such and such, or whatever. They can't even do that here. Number one, who the hell which side are you on exactly? Because the 5 cops were all black. So a bigot has nothing to hang on to. Plus, the police chief, who's also black, was like, yeah, the reason they pulled him over was a bullshit reason. And apparently this is some specialized unit called Scorpion. And now that unit's very existence is being called into question because not all of the squad cars are marked. They're in plain clothes. So basically, they're just vigilantes. I mean, at what point are they actually cops? If they're so deep that you have no way of knowing that they're cops. I hope they at least had badges. Now, on the newscast I was listening to, the lawyer for one of the cops, former cops, they're all being charged with second-degree murder, which I had mentioned before, and one of the lawyers said, oh, my client didn't go over the line, other cops did. Okay, so because your client, who was a cop, was a police officer, and his job is to prevent people from, oh, I don't know, being murdered, and he just stood there while his comrades were losing their shit. And you think that that somehow exonerates him of anything? Okay, fine, he didn't actively murder the guy, but he sure as hell didn't do anything to stop it. So, that's not really the slam dunk you think it is about this guy. No, he didn't murder him. He just stood by as others were murdering him. Yeah, that's not helpful. Let's see. What else is there? Well, since I brought up Paul Pelosi, like I said, Nancy Pelosi didn't want to listen to the 911 call, DePape's confession, or watch the video. Again, totally understandable. It's bad enough that she has to deal with the fact that her job led to this. I mean, it shouldn't have. You know, it's fine, you disagree with things that she's doing. Going to such extremes, no, not a good look. So I don't think she's declared that she's not running for, that this will be her last term. But I think she implied it when she said she was stepping down as speaker. So, but I haven't heard anything about anyone stepping up to run for her next term. So, because I wouldn't blame her if she just retired from Congress. I wouldn't blame her at all, because it's one thing to be hated and to have all sorts of idiots spewing hate at you because they're idiots. But to actually attack her husband, who's 80, yeah, I wouldn't blame her at all. So, but they did show some of the attack. They showed the body cam footage where you can see Pelosi, both DePape and Pelosi holding the hammer, and they were asking Pelosi if he's all right. And he, of course, said okay, because at that point he was okay. I mean, obviously, there's still an attacker there. It's not like you say, oh yeah, nothing's wrong. He's saying, no, I haven't been hurt. And then his hand slips and the guy beats him with a hammer while the cops are watching. I mean, okay, yes, they asked him if he's okay, but just because he said yes doesn't mean, he's still holding a hammer, holding the head of the hammer that some guy is trying to beat him with it. So yeah, maybe he should have said, I called you, does it look like I'm okay? But he took it to mean that he's physically at this moment okay, which he was. It just wasn't to the point that he was going to be okay in a few seconds. So maybe he shouldn't have said yes, but there's a guy with a hammer there, and he's holding the other end. I'm going to say that this isn't going to end well, because they were still struggling with it. It wasn't like everything's been settled and they were both being peaceful. So yeah, that was just bizarre that the cops had such a long delayed reaction. It was bizarre. Anyway, so I'm already seeing Twitter comments from, well, twits, who, from the right, from the MAGA world, who are still clinging to this ridiculous notion that these are two gay men involved in a spat and that things are not what it seems, and that they were just, that Paul Pelosi took one for the team, whatever the fuck that means. It's just bizarre how much they are going to pretzel their brains to try to make it seem like this is, that they aren't the party of hate, to make it seem like their positions are completely reasonable and that they're not the horrible people that they really are. I mean, maybe acknowledge that you're a despicable person and try to become a better person. But no, they would rather skewer reality rather than admit that these are horrible views that they espouse, that these are horrible actions that they condone, and accept that either that they're horrible people and move the fuck on and own, okay, I'm a horrible person, fine. But that's just it. They don't want to be horrible people, yet they are horrible people. The cognitive dissonance has got to be painful, because how can you claim you want to be a good person when all you espouse is horrible views and and push horrible narratives? I just do not see why you want to come, how you think you're coming back from that, or that you were never in that position. I mean, you cannot better yourself unless you understand what you're doing is horrible to begin with. So it's like they don't want to be seen as horrible people, but yet at the same time, they at some level realize that what they are saying is so horrible that they've got to alter reality so they don't look horrible, but at the same time they want to continue saying horrible freaking things. My brain hurts just trying to understand this. Okay, I think I've had enough of that one. Alright, so the latest on Ukraine. And it turns out that I think what I questioned earlier in the week was right. So the latest is Volodymyr Zelensky said the situation at the front remained acute and that Russian forces were destroying towns and villages around Ukrainian positions. So basically nothing new. And I did see a interview with some prisoners of war, some Russian prisoners of war in Ukraine, and one Russian prisoner said that, that on TV they were told that Nazis were running Ukraine. And he's like, yeah, that was a lie. So obviously, so it sounds like this is someone who actively signed up for the special military operation because they thought that they were doing a good thing for Ukraine, and now understand that no, Putin lied to you. There was another another soldier who's like, I'm a career army guy. I can't have regrets. On the one hand, I get what you're saying. This is your career, so you do what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, dude. Do you realize how monstrous you're sounding? By saying that I can't regret what I did. I mean, obviously, you have to do some horrible things in war, even if it's a justifiable war. I'm sure there are Ukrainian soldiers who are not thrilled that they have to, especially at the beginning before Russians started getting really horrible with them. They probably didn't like the fact that they were having to potentially kill Russians. I'm sure that they know plenty of Russians. I mean, you know, the there's so many similarities. However, at some point you got to realize, oh, yeah, this is fucked up. So, but so yeah, at least I'm wondering if this is why Putin has no problem with throwing these kids in as and treating them as cannon fodder, because he probably would rather they die in Ukraine, or that he just doesn't do anything to bring them home, simply because he doesn't want those who know the truth that Ukraine is not what Putin claims it is. I wonder if he's doing this so they can't come home and tell everybody that Putin is full of shit and that what they've seen is not what Russian propaganda claims they would see. So, yeah, I'm starting to wonder if that's not it. He doesn't want them to come back. Whether they die or get captured, he doesn't want them back because he knows that what he's doing is bullshit. That all he's doing is trying to put the Soviet Union back together, but telling everyone else something that sounds legit. So basically nobody knows the truth. All right. Like I mentioned, you earlier in this week, Ukraine forced a bunch of officials to resign because of scandals and graft allegations, underlining Zelensky's need to show allies that he is serious about tackling corruption and misrule. This is important as he lobbies for more weaponry, notably tanks and fighter jets, which I even questioned when the tanks were given the green light, whether, because this was like a day after all these mass resignations, whether one led from the other. That if Zelensky got rid of all this corruption, then he would get tanks. Now, how long this was in the works, I'm not going to say that Zelensky just threw these officials under a bus so he could get tanks. Investigations take time, so it's entirely possible that it just took this long to investigate what was happening with these scandals and this graft. And only now did they come to a head where they were forced to resign. Because I have heard stories about how Zelensky has offshore funds, and that he's not, he was not completely on the up and up either. So maybe he was just forced by the West to do this, or it just simply took time to get to this point. I'm not going to say either way. It could easily go either way. All right, let's see what else we have here. I just love this this phrasing. Who among us doesn't have a few classified documents at home? I just find that hilarious. So, of course, we have Donald Trump, we have Joe Biden, and now Pence. And the National Archives have sent letters to all former presidents and vice presidents asking them to look around, check to see if you have any classified documents. Now, I also heard that they start getting these classified documents. God, I cannot talk. These classified documents start getting declassified after 25 years. So, like, some of the things that are in Biden's house that were found were back from when he was in the Senate. So, if that's the case, if 25 years is the benchmark, some of that stuff has probably already been declassified, and it's just the fact that the paper still has classified on it rather than it's a threat to national security. Now, how much of that he has as opposed to stuff he's had as vice president, I don't know. It's still not a good look. I have heard from members who from previous administrations who said that there's an overclassification problem, that things are classified that really shouldn't be classified, which in that case, if it's not that obvious, of course people might accidentally take something that without noticing that's classified, because you're like, why the hell is this classified? This says nothing. So still, something has to be done. Either, I mean, I've been to archives, not the National Archives, but I've been to archives. You cannot take shit out. I mean, yeah, some people have managed to, even in smaller archives. But the idea is you're supposed to sign it in, sign it out. I mean, you're not just walking in, grabbing something and going out. That's not how it works. So, but according to what I've heard, you can actually take documents out of secure areas and you can take them home. I listened to Pod Save the World, and that is what the host said, that they could have just taken it out and taken it home. Which, I don't care if it turns out that it's not something that needed to be classified. You still gotta not do that. There should be, I mean, even if I don't care who you are, you should not have to be in a position to even have these in your home. You should look at them in the archives room and leave. I mean, once upon a time, note-taking was a thing. But then again, I guess if you're note-taking classified documents, that becomes classified as well, so that doesn't help matters. But still, are our memories so horrible that we need to, go there, take down take whatever you need, look at whatever you need, leave, and leave the documents there. I just don't understand why this is so hard. Whether, take notes on the parts that aren't classified. I mean, there's got to be a better way to do this. There really has to be. All right. So, more mentioning about Trump fatigue, about Trump going to New Hampshire, which is what they meant by the political climate changing. I don't know if it's Trump fatigue because the hateful MAGA people are still out there. It's just that they've gotten even too loony for Trump. They want someone loonier than him. So I'm not sure I would call it Trump fatigue. I really wouldn't. Maybe in New Hampshire. Maybe New Hampshire is a thing, but let's see. So Biden is pushing for an assault weapons ban, which that's been on the table for a long, long time, and Republicans, because they need to prove something, refuse to put a ban in place because they need their assault weapons. I'm sorry, Adam Kinzinger. I love your tweets. However, if you love your AR-15 that much, I think you're compensating for something. I mean, come on. What the hell? Now, granted, he's probably he is probably a gun owner who actually knows what the hell he's doing. I mean, he was in the military, so you'd hope so. But you're not in the military anymore. You don't need a military rifle. I don't know. So, let's see if there's anything else about. So, a Secret Service report finds that half the mass attacks in the U.S. between 2016 and 2020 were sparked by personal, domestic, or workplace disputes, and that the attackers were overwhelmingly men. Okay, Captain Obvious. We could have told you all that. This isn't telling us anything that we didn't already know. Anyone who's paying even the least bit of attention, anyway. Let's see. Poor Pakistan. So I mentioned about the grid failing. And now, in the damned if you do, damned if you don't category, the rupee tanked after the removal of exchange rate cap, a key condition the IMF required as part of economic reforms. So they're doing what the International Monetary Fund wants them to do. I don't know if it's because of corruption. I don't know why they are requesting these economic reforms, but to do the economic reforms, just tank their economy. So, yeah. They just cannot cut a break this week. Alright. So now I'm going to go into geographic areas. So, let's start with Africa. Janet Yellen, God, I cannot talk. Janet Yellen visited Africa this week. And, let's see. So, I'm sure that, there was a good reason for it. I mean, maybe she's trying to get all the economies on the same page. I don't know. I don't think that this article says why she went to Africa. Let's see. Oh, just to claim that the U.S. is a partner. So, and yes, China has been pushing its way into Africa, and so yeah, it's probably just some sort of damage control, which from what I understand from some African comments I've seen, and by African comments, I mean Africans in who live in Africa. And they would say things like, "Oh yeah, we're going to, try our luck with China because white people suck because of the history of colonialism," which you cannot blame them, but people change. you know, a lot of white people are not thinking about colonialism. Hell, the mega idiots, the who are super bigoted, they want isolationism. They don't want to conquer Africa. So I get why they're worried about this, but at the same time, China isn't your friend. China is taking advantage of resources. They're not doing anything better than what colonials did, except for possibly not putting Africans in slavery. Other than that, not a lot better. They're still trying to screw Africa over. I mean, there could be some Chinese companies that aren't, because just like not all white people suck, not all Chinese want to do horrible things. But, All right, now let's go to the Asia Pacific. And speaking of China, China says COVID deaths and severe cases fall over 70% since their peak. Okay, that's good. As holiday trips rise. So, yeah, how long is that going to stay? Australia limits alcohol sales in Alice Springs amid a crime wave, which I had discussed earlier. And another article I talked about was India really doesn't want people to watch the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, so yeah, I wouldn't say India doesn't want to. He doesn't want you to. His administration doesn't want you to. There are plenty of Indians who do want to watch that documentary. As mentioned about the students who are like, yeah, you cut us off once, but we're going to do it again. All right, let's go to Europe. A comedian in Russia writes a satirical song about the war. And I love it. Guess what happens next? Now, is he dead or just in jail? Let's see here. All right. He's been referred to prosecutors by a patriotic organization which believes it discredits the army, now a criminal offense. So, sounds like he's still alive, just in legal problems. So, based on what I've heard of Russian jails, not sure which one is better, but at least he's alive. All right. Germany's top Nazi hunter races to secure further convictions over the Holocaust, which I mentioned earlier in the week. And, I don't need to read the article to know that these Nazis he's hunting are dying out. These people are in their 90s, 80s, 90s. They're slowly dying as well. So, yeah, I think I mentioned it yesterday, which made sense because yesterday was Holocaust Remembrance Day. So it would make sense that article would come out then. All right. Now, the Middle East. Several people were killed and injured in a synagogue shooting attack on the outskirts of Jerusalem, leading to a security buildup in the occupied West Bank. Now, Netanyahu is trying to promote calm, saying, let law enforcement handle it. Don't take to the streets and take justice into your own hands. And one of his ministers, who's really right wing, was like, no, you get angry, attack. So yeah, Netanyahu needed the far right in order to regain power, and now it's gonna bite him in the butt. I hope. Unfortunately, that's not going to be good for the Palestinians, because this uptick in violence again is probably going to stay. Usually there's a calming period when, Israel isn't doing something really stupid like making new settlements on stolen land. But I don't think that's going to happen with this government. I don't think there's going to be a lull. I think from now on, while this government is in power, this is going to be constant, which isn't good for anybody. All right, let's see here. Let's move now to North America. The United States has a shortage of native seeds to restore natural habitats damaged by wildfires and other weather events made worse by climate. When I first read that, I thought that why not go to Greenland and go into the seed vault, but don't think that that's the purpose of the seed vault. I think it's for something more cataclysmic than, or maybe it is meant for this, in which case, go to Greenland and get those seeds. But, alright, so now let's go to business. U.S. airlines forecast a strong 2023 travel season, which all I can say is hopefully they have their shit together by major travel periods this year, because it certainly didn't start off well. Didn't start off well at all. Credit card companies say it's peaking. So I guess that means not as many people are using credit cards, or about Visa. The revenue growth slows as tough economies sober spending. Okay. All right. That's what that's about. I was hoping that people were just getting smart and realizing that credit cards are not free money, which is basically how people end up in debt with credit cards, is they basically forget that they actually have to pay the credit card company back. It's not just free money that some company decided to give you out of the goodness of their heart. So, all right, let's see. Prosecutors want tougher bail conditions on Sam Bankman-Fried to prevent him from witness tampering or evidence destruction in the FTX case. Yikes. I was starting to think maybe it's just the people around him who suck. But no, maybe he just sucks just as much. He's just better at portraying himself as not being horrible. All right, let's see. Intel, we talked about. It says Intel takes massive bath, which I told you what was going on with Intel yesterday. What? Massive bath? They had a historic collapse. What? Okay, whatever. The US sues Google. Let's see. I know Google was in trouble with the EU, but it's about the ads. which I did mention, I think yesterday. Yeah, Google faces greater threat of forced ad unit sale from U.S. lawsuits. So, yeah, that they're not letting the competition run ads. Let's see. What else do we have? Okay, animals. I never thought that that would be a category, but okay. Italy mourns the death of greedy mountain bear Juan Carito, a Finnish. We that semicolon is way too small. Okay, so I guess he was a. Let's see. Did he die of natural causes or is someone an asshole? Let's see. Oh, road accident. Okay. So it doesn't sound like it was an intentional hit. Just accidents happen. All right. Finnish Zoo is returning its giant pandas to China, which makes sense. It's a loan program. China loans out pandas, and then after a while they give them back. So, okay. Mexico tries to preserve its axolotl salamanders and tiny porpoises. Okay, I assume that those, just like the bear, is endangered. I assume that that's why they're trying to preserve it. So, with that, I believe I am done with this week. So, I will see you guys Monday. And again, if there's any news article that I mentioned that you want me to go more in depth, or if you have a news item that you want me to get out there, let me know in the comments and I will definitely make a video about it. So, with that, I will see you all Monday.